Check this out, man. Underage midget porn. They're small and misproportioned, yet sexy.
Goat!
Yeah! Fuck yeah! Woo!
Next in this retrospect is the year 1997, and MTV up until this point has made about 6 animated programs. Most of them were pretty good, but other than Beavis and Butthead, they really haven't made a show to hit that mark, garnering a bigger audience to these type of shows. They were good shows, but nothing truly that recognizable or that iconic to that extent. But then there was Daria. Daria was created by Glenn Eicher, pretty sure I butchered his name, we're just gonna call him Glenn for the rest of the video, and Susie Lewis. Originally, Daria was a character from Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead, entirely a different character in personality and even in look. During the final seasons of Beavis and Butthead, story editor Glenn pitched a spin-off series for Daria with a pilot. MTV approved, hoping they would find a strong female representative along the way, and they sure as hell did. Daria is a show that cynics and people who hated high school and hates the countless amounts of media about high school in Hollywood there are. Daria is a show about title character Daria moving to a new town with her family and attending a new high school. Daria is a jaded, monotone cynic who hates high school and takes pleasure in making fun and insulting high school and all these high school stereotypes that surround her. You would think following this jaded piece of shit around for 4 or 5 seasons would be annoying and unbearable, but it actually isn't, because the writing is great. Hearing Daria commentate about the bullshit around her is actually honestly entertaining. And when she's paired up with her friend Jane, it just becomes a giant roast session of them making fun of high schoolers.
Chuck Ruttheimer here, and you are?
Jane. Esmeralda.
I'll be your social director for the evening. Would you ladies like a tour of the house? It's free.
Do you accept tips?
Of course.
Ditch the bangs.
What makes Daria such a fun show to watch is, well, I can relate to the main character kind of a lot, because I thought high school was completely bogus as well, and just seeing this character say the things that I would probably say in my head is really cool. And another thing I really like about this show is that the side characters are really just these really funny, dumb high school stereotypes. Characters that you would see in like a high school movie or a shitty high school TV show. The character I like the most in this series is Daria's dad, Jake. He's such a sad and pathetic man, and he's just completely fucking whipped. His patheticness is just really funny to me.
Snicker, 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 damn it! Who's laughing? What's so damn funny? Why, you little...
He kind of reminds me of a less sad Jerry from Rick and Morty. Every time he's on screen, I just get a big grin on my face. My other favorite character is Daria's best friend, Jane. Her and Daria just hate high school and pretty much anything about it, and have really great chemistry together. And Jane's snarkiness is almost, if not funnier than Daria's at times. You could say that she's just a clone of Daria, but I disagree. They may have the same attitude about things and some same interests, but I feel Jane does just enough to separate herself from that tag. Also, she has a much more interesting and better design than Daria in my opinion. Oh, and if you're talking about the best characters in the show, you can't forget Mr. DiMartino.
It's almost noon. You can do it.
Mr. D, I thought you were at the barbecue. What are you doing here?
I'm sorry if my shopping cart has confused you, Kevin. I'm here for the command performance of Madam Butterfly in the automotive department.
Wow, Kevy, this store really does have everything.
No kidding, babe. Have fun at the butterfly show.
Thank you, kid. Cheese logs!
The art of Daria is actually pretty good. Nothing too mind-blowing, most of the comedy is through dialogue, so characters do kind of stand still a lot, but the show still holds a pretty good level of quality in the art department. And I really like the style, and I'm really glad they made the change to this instead of keeping the old Beavis and Butthead aesthetic. God, that would have been awful. What I really like about the show's art is the credits. The show's animators in the credits draw the characters in different outfits, and it's a little touch I really appreciate, and it's one of the things I always kind of look forward to seeing on each oncoming season. The one thing I didn't really like about the show's art was the switch in the early 2000s to be colored digitally. It's understandable, digital coloring and art back then was still relatively new, but it just doesn't look as good and it kind of looks weird, and the colors just really turn me off personally. It's kind of the same thing that happened with Rugrats, where that rough aesthetic really had a charm to it, and when they started coloring it digitally, it just kind of lost it.
The one thing I really don't like about the art of the show is that they like to really reuse backgrounds. Now, I know it's been common practice in the animation industry that animators have pretty much reused backgrounds constantly. It's nothing new. They like to reuse the same sort of background whenever the family's eating at dinner. And the background itself isn't terrible, it's just that they never really change up the food, so it just kind of looks like Daria for the past 3.5 2.5 seasons has just eaten nothing but either pizza or lasagna. Either Daria has like the greatest metabolism ever, or she's just Garfield.
Daria, for an MTV show, lasted quite a while for 5 seasons up until 2002, where the show concluded with the second Daria TV movie, Daria Is It College Yet? That title just sounds like a fucking Ice Cube movie. And that movie ends the series with Daria and Jane going to college. A pretty satisfying finale to the series. I thought Daria was a really smart, funny show, and should probably rank in any person who likes MTV top 5 list somewhere. Next is 1997 with cartoon Sushi, and look, I don't really have much to say about this show, and let me explain. So the original run of Liquid Television ended in 1994, and MTV went like, hey, let's make another series, and they just called it Cartoon Sushi. You get the gist of it. It's just another animation showcase of creators where they can come out and submit their shit and get broadcast to the world, and if they're lucky, they maybe get picked up. It's essentially Liquid Television 2. Also, in this show, there's another John R. Dilworth pilot appeared on here, The Dirty Birdie. That's pretty nice. Again, there's nothing really much to say about this show or anything interesting to say about Cartoon Sushi. It's just Liquid Television with less memorable shorts. The only other piece of info that's actually pretty interesting about this show was that the show was created by Ed, Edd n Eddy creator Danny Antonucci. Other than that, it's just Liquid Television again. Next, we move to 1998 with Celebrity Deathmatch. Fucking Celebrity Deathmatch. If you can't tell, I'm not that enthused about this series. Why? I don't care about celebrities. That sort of thing is just so fucking boring to me. The idea of the show is 2 celebrities, mainly 2 people occupying the same sort of genre or thing that can be somewhat comparable. They fight inside an arena to the death. And I really don't give a shit. This is gonna be straight up, this is gonna be crystal clear. I don't give a shit about this series' premise. Again, I don't care about celebrities. Scratch that, I don't care about the celebrities in this series. Like, I don't fucking care about Kid Rock fighting Eminem. I mean, in all honesty, we all know who won that battle in the end. And that's another thing. Some shows can live through many generations and age like a fine wine. Like the good episodes of The Simpsons, or Futurama, or some episodes of like Seinfeld.
African-American. African-American.
This show ages worse than fucking milk. Because all the celebrities pretty much featured in this show are either fucking dead, washed up, just not important, or not as important as what they once were when this show was being made. Oh wow, look, it's Britney Spears. She used to be the big thing, guys, come on. I will say the use of claymation is actually pretty cool, but that's the only thing I can really appreciate about the show because everything else to me is just terrible. Celebrity Deathmatch is like a time capsule. You had to either be there or really enjoy these celebrities' work to truly enjoy seeing something like this. And for me, I'm not one of those people. I keep hearing reports that MTV's gonna make a reboot and bring it back, but apparently due to some reasons, a creator on Twitter said that they ceased production on the supposed reboot. And personally, I don't really care if this show ever gets brought back because it's just gonna be the same shit, just with newer celebrities. The next show on this retrospect is actually pretty interesting because I couldn't find jack shit on the show. Other than this image. Whatever, the show wasn't really that interesting to begin with from the description. Station Zero was a show where a group of people would sit around TV and watch music videos. It's just like Beavis and Butthead with only like black people. That's pretty much it. Next in 1999 is MTV's Downtown, a comedy about urban living in New York City. Urban settings are cool. I just personally always wanted to live in those types of settings. You get to see much more buildings, more interesting people, and much more interesting places. Unlike here in the South where it's always fucking hot, people drink sweet tea like it's goddamn water, and the endless amounts of cornfields. Downtown is a show about a multitude of characters, but mostly Alex. Alex is a 20-something college dropout loser who moves out of his parents' house into a shitty New York apartment. And most of the show is just following him and his sister and her friends' everyday life. A lot of the episodes are about problems that would be really relatable to a person who's older and people who live in urban areas. Like the constant insomnia, asking a girl out, clubbing, and how confusing the damn New York subway is. What I find interesting about the show's writing is that it possibly isn't written as much as I thought it was. A lot of lines between the characters possibly are just kind of improvised. It's pretty unclear to me. I'm pretty sure there's like a base outline for the story of the show, but sometimes it just feels like they just let the actors just have free reign and create conversations by themselves.
Hey, when I get my apartment, I'm gonna be the man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or at least a normal human being.
You know, when you do, if that should happen and you start dating, you know, surgically implanted lap dancers and all that kind of stuff, who will keep me from blowing my brains out with a shotgun?
Oh, don't worry. I'll always be there for you. Like you'll be there for me.
Oh, yes.
On moving day.
Amen.
With the money for the van.
Or I'm just completely wrong, but whatever the case, the dialogue between the characters is pretty fun to listen to and feel more real. And characters like Alex and Jen just are really great at speaking to each other. Based on the way they talk to each other, you can just get the feeling that these characters have been friends for a long time. The art of the show is actually really cool as well, creating an urban environment that I can actually see existing in reality. I also like how these characters look as well. They kind of look like how I'd envision a young adult would kind of typically look like, with long, lankier bodies. I like it, even though I find it kind of hard to see their little dot eyes from certain angles at times, which this show likes to use a lot of interesting ones from time to time. Downtown was a really good show that lasted for 13 episodes. I'm assuming this show didn't really do that well in ratings because this show is relatively unknown. The only thing I have left to say about this show is this little interesting factoid I learned. In Downtown, there's this character named Goat. Look familiar? Yeah, it's literally the same character that appears in Megas XLR, because the creator of Downtown also created Megas XLR, and with this knowledge, it kind of makes more sense all the fuck MTV stuff in that show. It's the turn of the century, and the first new MTV cartoon produced by MTV was Spy Groove. Yeah, no one really cares about Spy Groove. You can tell this because there's no decent footage around and lack of coverage here on YouTube. And for good reason. The show's fucking boring. Oh my god, possibly the most dull animated show in this entire retrospect. Spy Groove is a spy comedy about spy duo number 1 and number 2, going on and being assigned missions by their boss Helena Troy. Spy Groove's comedy is mostly dialogue based, with characters engaging in fast-paced banter, like shows like Archer, Bob's Burgers, or Home Movies. But unlike those shows, have interesting and different characters I give a shit about, and have interesting conversations. That's like the biggest thing with a dialogue-based comedy. If your conversations between the characters are fucking garbage, then what are you doing? I don't really find any character that's interesting in Spy Groove. And the main two characters didn't really feel all that varied enough to where I feel like they were two different characters. The only difference I can tell between one of them is that one's really impatient. The art of the show, I like. Stylistically, I think it's alright. I like the thick outlines and stuff. And I think it was kind of cool that it was designed by a guy that does caricatures. And I like the whole Miami kind of aesthetic to it, but it really doesn't animate all that well. As a homage to classic cartoons, most of the animation to the show is just limited to lip sync and characters being mostly still and just talking. That isn't a terrible idea, and a homage would be pretty enduring if it was fucking funny in the first place, or at least interesting. Literally, the show is about two guys I don't think anyone is gonna ever fucking care about, just talking. I really don't suggest Spy Groove. Maybe you'll see something in it I don't, but I just found this show to be really uninteresting and just boring. And that's the worst thing you can be to me. You can either just be straight fucking garbage and I'll still find enjoyment out of it. But if you're just like boring, that's worse than being terrible. Like, I can find enjoyment out of like garbage. I can find enjoyment out of just straight trash. But if you're just like boring and uninteresting, that's worse. Also, this show gets knocked down 5 points for making me have to dig around to find footage of this show, which just turned out to be 240, 360p garbage because no one cares about this show. College blows. Your first year is more likely going to be pretty rough. I mean, why wouldn't it be? It's probably a big step for most people to be more like an adult. A lot of people have fond or pretty terrible memories of their experience in their freshman year at college. And that's what Undergrads is about. Undergrads is a show about 4 best friends from pretty much birth going to college for the first time, but 2 of them go to completely different colleges. Rocco, the dumb, abrasive, alcoholic college idiot who's all about getting the ladies, unsuccessfully, and partying and joining a frat. Cal, the blonde, drooling retard of the group who gets all the ladies for some reason. Also, he says guy a lot.
I'll see you all the time, roomie guy.
Gimpy, the giant fucking Star Wars nerd who goes to a tech school across town. He never leaves his room and only communicates with his friends through a computer, which he can seemingly turn on at any time he wants. Also, did I mention that he loves Star Wars?
Gentlemen, please raise your glasses. We 4 shall never meet again, at least until Christmas. To us, to the click.
To the click.
Now we shall watch my Malaysian bootleg DVD of The Empire Strikes Back.
I'm really gonna miss these guys.
And Nitz, the fucking normie of the group. with nothing really that special about him other than his sense of style, which is of a mailman for some reason. Most, if not all, of the episodes are based around Nitz and him going through a lot of struggles that a freshman in college would have to experience, like the constant of gaining weight, trying to stand out and leave an impression among your peers, parties, underage drinking, fitting into a clique, and most of all, college dating. Undergrads is really funny. I just love all these characters in this show. Their personalities may be drastically different from one another, but they just work together really well. All 4 of the main group have just really great chemistry together. And there are a lot of references in this show, mostly Star Wars, but they even make references to things that are around the time that are just really cool, like Quake and Doom. The art of the show is actually pretty alright. Coming from Canada, my expectations were kind of low, but they actually did a pretty alright job. Even though everyone has these giant heads and faces that feel like they're more akin to getting a drawing at the county fair. And the voice acting is really good as well. Props to the main creator Pete Williams for voicing pretty much every main character in this show. Unfortunately, Undergrads, like most shows on MTV, underperformed and got fucking canned mostly due to low ratings. And apparently critics weren't the biggest fans of the early episodes, which was fucking bullshit. So MTV pulled the plug before season 2, which creator Pete Williams was planning on producing. Pete Williams did try to bring it to another Viacom company, Comedy Central, but was rejected. The story of the creator of Undergrad trying to bring back his show is actually pretty fascinating. In 2006, Pete tried again saying he wanted to continue the show and urged fans to spam the shit out of Cartoon Network and Comedy Central in an attempt to revive Undergrads and show that there's fan appreciation for the show. And you can guess how that went. 2 years later, in 2008, Williams attempted with Teletoon to create an entirely new show called We Got Issues, so that he can reintroduce the characters from Undergrads into this show, but that show was passed on as well. In 2013, Williams started a Facebook group titled Bring Back Undergrads and got a bunch of fans making tribute videos with their DVDs of Undergrads to show possible interest in a season 2.
Please bring back the Undergrads.
Bring back the Undergrads.
Bring back the Undergrads.
Bring back Undergrads.
Bring back Undergrads.
Somehow, please, I need my Undergrads back.
Seeing the show come back would feel like everyone was given a second chance. The creators, the characters, the fans, and me.
That's what I think Undergrads should be going back.
As of now, not much news about Undergrads has surfaced. I'm pretty sure it will never get picked back up again, ever, and will probably just stay dead. But you gotta admire the dedication from this creator just to fight for his show. Fighting for well over a decade for a show not many people watch to get another season, or at least a movie. I'm pretty sure his efforts will all be in vain, but deep in my heart I kinda want him to succeed. I mean, the show was pretty awesome, so seeing more of it, I'd be pretty happy. So if you want to help Pete on his conquest, use the hashtag BringBackUndergrads to show support to the show. And go out and buy the DVDs or just go watch Undergrads. It's a really good show.
I'm making this video so that maybe the world will understand how freaking awesome of a show Undergrads is. Will understand how freaking awesome of a show Undergrads is.
Wow, 2 Canadian shows in a row that don't completely suck. Next is 2002's Clone High, a show in recent years that has been getting a lot more admiration. For good reason, the show's really funny. I mean, it was made by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who did Jump Street and the Lego Movie. I mean, why wouldn't it be good? These guys wrote the Extreme movie. Yeah, that's probably not the best example of their work. But speaking on Extreme Movie has like the best all-star cast though. Check it. Michael Cera, Frankie Muniz, Kevin Hart, Andy Milonakis, all in one movie. Incredible. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh yeah, Clone High. The premise of Clone High is about an experiment that was commenced in the 1980s and created genetic clones of these dead figures, Abe Lincoln, Gandhi, and Joan of Arc, and felt the need to make them into teenagers and put them in high school for some reason. Does not sound all that efficient, but whatever. So wait, you're using my fucking tax dollars just so you can put dead people into high school? No wonder why ISIS hates us. Clone High is a show basically satirizing and exaggerating high school tropes and high school TV shows while making references and funny jokes about historical figures. It's a really strange concept that sounds kind of ludicrous and will probably never work, but it actually does, and it's actually really interesting. And as a person who went to high school and could give 2 shits about every other subject other than history, I really enjoyed most of the portrayals of historical figures in this show. I thought they were really funny. That may sound a little bit daunting, especially if you suck shit at history, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure a moderately knowledgeable person in history can more likely catch these references. Most of the show is about the main cast, consisting of Abe Lincoln, a loser who's hopelessly in love with the most popular girl in school, Cleopatra. Joan of Arc, Abe's best friend and gets stuck 10 levels deep in the friend zone and just keeps getting cucked every episode. But Abe's oblivious and stupid and hopelessly in love with Cleo to realize any of Joan's advances. Kinda sad. Gandhi. Not really the biggest contributor in the main drama or the main plot of the show, and mostly relegated to B-plots and comic relief. But as his job as a comic relief, he does an excellent job at that. There's no character in the show that made me consistently laugh more than Gandhi. And I just kinda like the idea of Gandhi in high school just being this kind of annoying party animal. Cleopatra, the kind of generic popular cheerleader girl cliche that if you watched any teen movie or watched any Disney Channel movie, you would be able to recognize his kind of character. Also, she has the most uncomfortable looking breasts I think I've ever seen beside Lara Croft's sharp as a knife triangle tits. And lastly, JFK. Being pretty much accurate to his real life counterpart, fucking everything and anything with a human pulse. Just minus the whole head thing. Dominating! In Clone High, there's also these B-plots with side characters that are just as entertaining, like Principal Scuttlesworth with his little robot. Another thing I really praise Clone High for its writing is that there's a little bit of plot progression through the series and drama that you can really get into as the show goes on. It really is one of the most perfect parodies of high school drama I think I've ever seen. The animation for the show is also really cool. I like pretty much all these high school interpretations of these dead historical figures visually, except for Joan. I don't know, her head really disturbs me. Also, again, Cleo's tits. What a good show. What a really good show. I can't wait to get to season 2. No! Yeah, Clone High, like all good things, never got the recognition it truly deserved. Mostly due to the fact that it was on a piss-poor network like MTV. Ratings were pretty shit. Also, there was a bit of controversy with the people of India over the portrayal of Gandhi in the show. And being that the show was getting piss-poor ratings anyways, MTV just decided to kill it and end the controversy before it can get out of hand. Thank you, India. It's weird that you find a time to complain about portrayals of Gandhi in obscure cartoons, but yet not enough time to fix your plumbing situation. I feel your priorities should be, a little bit switched. Remember Bordertown, that ugly racist piece of shit of a show whose basically only joke was, look at these kooky Mexicans. Aw, they're so funny. Yeah, well, the creator of that show, Mark the Hentai Man, made a show for MTV back in 2002 called 3 South. 3 South is a show about two best friends, Sanford and Dell, going into their freshman year of college. The show is basically like Undergrads, but instead of like actual realistic relatable characters, you get two complete idiots. And you know what? It ain't that bad. I found the show to be pretty moderately funny. Nothing to really make me roll around laughing, but the show actually made me laugh pretty consistently. For as ugly as they are, I actually do kind of like the characters. The two main leads, Dell and Sanford, are in that lovable but not frustrating kind of idiots. And their stupidity most of the time is actually pretty funny. And I love Dell. He may have no eyes, but he's just adorable. And I really like their snooty bookworm third roommate, Joe. He's my favorite character in the show. If you're gonna have like two idiots in the show, you're gonna need one guy to be the straight man. And Joe is pretty great at being the straight man. Now I know what you're thinking. Mars, this show looks fucking garbage. And you'd be correct, because it does look like fucking garbage. And apparently this is like Mark Henteman's like art style, because his later show Bordertown looks exactly the same. Even to the extent like characters from 3 South I think are literally in Bordertown. Everyone in this show just looks like really fat, deformed slobs with skinny legs and giant gross noses. It's just a really unappealing style that makes me question, why did he even make this into his style? It's just so unappealing. Maybe he wanted his shows to stand out in some way, but this is not the way you do it, dude. 3 South lasted for, you guessed it, 1 season due to poor ratings. Holy fuck, this is like, what is this, like fucking 4 in a row? I've always had an infatuation with Spider-Man. You name it, I read some of the comics, I played pretty much all the video games. I even got those shitty web shooters that I thought I could swing around like Spider-Man. That one did not turn out real well. And I especially watched a lot of Spider-Man cartoons. But surprisingly, 2 years ago, I found out I completely missed out on one. The MTV CGI Spider-Man show with Neil Patrick Harris. This certain Spider-Man cartoon is actually pretty interesting, because it follows the continuity of the original Sam Raimi film. Evident because Norman Osborn is in fact already dead in this series, and obviously his son Harry is holding a grudge against Spider-Man for the death of his father. To me, this was really strange, because pretty much every Spider-Man series typically does the whole origin story thing with Uncle Ben or Peter Parker's like in high school and stuff, but in this series, Peter is straight up in fucking college and is a young adult. The reason that MTV decided to do this is because the original Spider-Man was so fucking popular. It was so fucking popular. Originally, it wasn't intended to be this way. Originally, it was supposed to be an adaptation of Ultimate Spider-Man, but due to the popularity of the first movie, they switched it up and reworked the series. Now with this background info, this sounds like the series would suck with all this meddling, but it's actually pretty dang good. This show still captures the fun in Spider-Man, but while also being a bit more mature and at times a little bit more darker. Oh yeah, this is probably the most mature Spider-Man series we probably ever have. Not like the totally unwatchable for kids, I mean they did later air this on the Kids Network. But characters start cursing, blood is involved, and Harry is literally just trying to fuck everything. The show never really gets too up its ass with its seriousness, and in some episodes it's just Spider-Man just being Spider-Man. But some episodes, like the final episodes, are just really dark gut-wrenchers. One of the things people mostly know about this show is that it's completely animated and cel-shaded CGI, and the animation was handled by the people who made Reboot Rainmaker Studios. And to be perfectly honest, the CGI I didn't think was actually that bad. I mean, now it looks a little bit rough comparatively what we have with CG and 3D now. I mean, if you want a good example, look at the new Ninja Turtles. That's how far we came with 3D. But I still don't think it's like completely terrible. I actually think certain scenes in this show actually look really impressive and really benefit from being in 3D. Like characters like Kingpin, I think he looked amazing in this show. Also, he's fucking black for some reason. Sure, they still have the Ruby problem where sometimes characters in the background have no texture and just gray silhouettes of people walking. And sometimes Manhattan looks like fucking Legoland. You guys only had time to paint like 10 buildings? No wonder why there's so much crime in this place. This place sucks. But for the most part, I think the show's really not that bad looking. Now, I will say, I don't mind the CG in the show. I think it's actually pretty okay for the time. But what I absolutely hate about the art of this show is that some of the designs of these characters are just terrible. Mainly the fucking main character. Peter Parker looks downright evil in this series. He always has like this evil, conniving look on his face. It's honestly a bit disturbing. I think the creepiness mostly comes from his giant, thick fucking eyebrows. I know it's kind of like a character trait of Peter Parker in the comics that he has these giant, thick eyebrows, but come on, guys. It also doesn't help that he has like these orange-yellow eyes that he looks like he's been possessed by Satan. It's just scary. If I saw this as a kid, I'd be fucking terrified of Peter Parker. Also, Harry. You just look absolutely putrid in this series. You're fucking up your dad's money, blowing it on beer and picking up desperate chicks. But what you really need to do is get an entire fucking facelift. The voice acting in this series is actually pretty good. Neil Patrick Harris does a pretty good job as being Spider-Man, and it's a shame that he never really got asked or came back to reprise his role in a different series. I don't really think he cares. He has that How I Met Your Mother money, so. So Spider-Man, the new animated series, ended after 13 episodes, and it ended on a damn cliffhanger that will never get a sequel and never get answered. Peter gives up being Spider-Man, and we never ever hear shit about it again. Spider-Man, the new animated series, was canceled due to, you guessed it, poor ratings. Wow. No one saw that coming. Wow. Like, did they forget that kids mostly perpetuate the popularity and revenue of Spider-Man? I mean, it was cool that they did this more darker kind of Spider-Man thing, but if we're being logical, this was pretty stupid. One, you put it on a network like MTV where the popularity was obviously fleeting by the tail end of the 90s. What do you think was gonna happen? Also, kids don't watch MTV. Well, at least the show is actually pretty good. And we did get Spectacular Spider-Man after this. That was pretty cool. And then they canceled that too. I really do hate this world. Pretty much after this Spider-Man show, MTV stopped making animated series for their main channel and instead just dumped it off onto their MTV2 channel, which less people have. And the first thing they did, which I'm not even sure quantifies, but whatever, we have 2004's Video Mods. Now what is this? What is fucking MTV's Video Mods? Well, Video Mods was a show made by MTV where they would mod video games and turn them into music videos.
I just want you to know.
It's basically like AMV the show, except it's video games, and it's just magical. Next, in 2005, we have the show Wonder Chosen. Wonder Chosen is... I don't really think anyone can really explain what this series is about, but Wonder Chosen is a show about parroting popular kids' educational shows like Sesame Street and The Electric Company in the most uneducational, weird, and sometimes disturbing way.
Slaves built the pyramids. Slaves built the Parthenon. Slaves built America. Slaves, this is your song. Thank you. Slaves. Thank you. Slaves. Thank you. Slaves. Slaves, this is your song. Thank you.
It's like Sesame Street, but was written and edited by Tim and Eric. The show's so bizarre, even for MTV. The show is something I would expect from Adult Swim, but not from MTV. My favorite part of the show is just the actual kids themselves, and a lot of the interactions with the public. You can tell by the way some of these people will react that it wasn't staged and it's just genuine reactions. And it's actually pretty hysterical.
Harassing me? Leave me alone.
Oh, that's good. You'll talk about harassment like for
What are you doing right now?
Yeah, that's good. Tell that. I'm for the kids.
Take that camera and shove it up your ass. And don't follow me. Now you're harassing me. No. You're harassing me. Leave me alone. Don't follow me, or I'll call cops. Take my picture, my brother.
Oh, okay, we just wanted one question for the children. The kids?
Keep it away. Keep it away, son. Keep it away.
But I was just going to talk about him.
Not yet.
Wonder Chosen is amazing in the weirdest way possible, and I urge you to watch it. Show it to your kids, I don't care. Next we have...
Where my dog's at?
Ow, 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 ow! A show that no one fucking watched and isn't memorable at all. Where My Dog's At is a show about a beagle named Buddy trying to find his way back to New Jersey from LA to return to his owner. And along with him to protect him is his best friend who is a bulldog played by Tracy Morgan. I just found this show just to be really uninteresting. And this show is just another excuse for MTV just to shove famous celebrities just for the sake of it and just make parodies of famous celebrities. And none of these parodies of said celebrities were never truly that funny to begin with. And the art of the show, while not garbage, it's nothing memorable. And that's all I can really say about this show. There's nothing truly remotely interesting or enticing to make anybody or me want to sit down and watch this show. The only actual interesting thing about this show is the apparent controversy the show had with the African American community after having a scene with a black woman being in dog leashes and just defecating on the floor. Classy. I've heard stories about this show and how bad it was, and they were right. This show blows. I sat through 3 out of the 5 episodes, and I felt out of all the things I could be doing with my life today, like I could go exercising, you know, work on my social life and my social skills, or like just learn something, like learn a skill. I'm over here watching Chico and fucking Guapo. This show is terrible in about every way. The writing sucks, and it moves so fast, it's so hard to figure out what the hell is happening on the screen. We barely get to know any of these characters, and they really have nothing really that interesting about them anyways. The art of the show sucks, as you can tell, and the voice acting, which pisses me off the most because it's just garbage. Everyone is just put through like a pitch shift, and it just sounds terrible and it's just unbearable to listen to.
On the studio with gelatinous FAT because he's in love with me. He cannot control himself.
Hello, he ain't in love with you, baby.
Oh, yes, he is. He come by, he try to get close to me and touch my chucho, lick my toto, rub my bolo.
Shut the fuck up!
Even for like 5 episodes, this show is not even worth that time. Don't even bother. I don't even think you can because it's super hard to find footage of the show anyway, so. Unless you buy the DVD, which you could do so much with the money, then spend it on Chico and Guapo. Like there's some kid starving in Africa can use that money instead of Chico and Guapo. Next up is Friday, the animated series based off the film series Friday. Friday is a good movie. Basically, Friday is like the Citizen Kane to like black movies. It just is. The sequels to Friday are fucking trash, and they really should have stopped after the first one. And for the love of God, do we really need a Friday 4? Well, MTV, where they pretty much just rerun Friday constantly, like seriously, if it's like 3 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon, I bet MTV's airing Friday somewhere. Apparently made an animated TV series based on the movie, and just like the sequels, it's not really that good. It's pretty boring actually. You see, what made Friday funny was 2 things. It was memorable and quotable moments in the cast themselves. This show has none of that. Nothing will be quoted from Friday the animated series. Well, maybe that one quote where Craig's dad is shaving his balls.
I'm tired of your mother complaining she can't see the forest for the trees.
And none of the original cast are on the show. So what's the point of even watching this? Even people who you could expect to be on this show, like John Witherspoon, ain't here. Come on, you can't have Friday without John Witherspoon. And it also doesn't help that the anime series kind of loses one of the elements of that original movie that I actually really liked. Friday was a good movie because it was a grounded comedy in the hood of LA. This series discards that element for a more goofy and unfunny kind of way, with outrageous over-the-top plots that feel more akin to a show that would run for 1 season on Fox. And that's kind of the vibe I got from this series. It also doesn't help that the series doesn't look good visually at all. Like, good God, did they do Chris Tucker so wrong in this series? I have a theory on why they make Chris Tucker's character Smokey in this series just absolutely disgusting. You see, when Chris Tucker did Friday, after that he got a little bit more famous doing the Rush Hour movies and making millions in Hollywood. And due to that, he refused to come back to the sequels to the Friday movies. So my theory is that they deliberately made Smokey's design just so putrid just to say fuck you, Chris Tucker, for not coming back to the sequels.
But hey, that's just a theory. A nigga theory. Thanks for watching.
Friday the animated series really isn't worth anyone's time, even for the most die-hard Friday fan. And that's saying much, because you guys got Friday after next. Next, we have the first series to return to MTV's main channel, DJ and Fro. DJ and Fro was a show that aired in 2009 for MTV and just got tossed out there and did not last long at all. DJ and Fro is just a straight up Beavis and Butthead clone. But instead of them watching music videos, they just watch a bunch of old YouTube videos. That's pretty much it. They watch old YouTube videos.
Mickey Mouse rides a nigga in the house. A nigga in the house. A nigga in the house.
That dude is like the coolest guy ever.
A nigga in the house all day long.
Next is Popzilla. Remember Mad on Cartoon Network? That show where they would parody like celebrities all the time, which was really confusing because I think kids didn't really know any of these fucking celebrities we were talking about. Yeah, that one. Popzilla is basically Mad, but for MTV. They even do the same thing in Mad where they put the literal face of the celebrity on the character. I've already stated I don't care about celebrities, I don't care about pop stars, so imagine my enthusiasm having to sit through this dated piece of shit. This show is so dated. Like, look, they make jokes like, haha, look, it's Chris Angel, and haha, Twilight is stupid, bro. It also doesn't help that these characters literally look like stock presets that you would find in Go Animate. Alright, Popzilla is just straight garbage. Next is 2011's Good Vibes. Finally, something I actually kind of enjoy, and the only thing I actually liked of actor Josh Gad being in his entire career. Good Vibes was a show made in 2011 around the time Beavis and Butthead got revived in the whole Jersey Shore and 16 I'm Horny era. Originally it was supposed to go to Fox, but for whatever reason they passed on the series and went to MTV. It was a very overshadowed and underrated show in my eyes. I mean, how could this happen? I mean, you had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Tom the Ball Buster Brady, writing this show. Good Vibes is a show about a fat high school boy moving to California with his single parent mom, and is about him adjusting and learning to come out of his shell and just learn to have a good time. Good Vibes is actually pretty funny. The show to me has the right amount of crude humor while also having the characters still remain likable and not really make me want to hate them. And the show is actually pretty clever with some jokes at times. Sure, a lot of the humor can be derived from sex jokes, but it's a show about a teenager in high school in California. If they weren't doing that, then they would really have to give an apology to the state of California for misrepresenting them. I really like our two main characters, Mondo and Woody. I really like that the show shows how they met and how their relationship grew instead of just doing the whole thing where they already established as characters being friends beforehand. And these two are a really good pairing. And the supporting cast is also really great, like the little special kid. And their teacher, Mrs. Teets, I always found pretty humorous. Played by Danny McBride. Great casting. The animation for Good Vibes isn't really that bad, especially when you compare it to the last couple shows. I mean, sure, it's nothing really that special and it kind of looks basic, but they do some things with the animation I actually really like. Like the stoner gags at the start of each episode is actually pretty good looking and pretty creative. The animation was okay. Good Vibes to me really felt like the last MTV show I can actually call good. The biggest meme of MTV, canceled due to poor ratings. After this and the whole Beavis and Butthead revival, MTV took another 4 to 5 year hiatus until 2016 with their last sort of anime show, 2016's Greatest Party Story Ever. A show about people telling tales about their adventures going to parties, and part of it is animated. The writing of this show is really just based on whether or not the story themselves are actually interesting. Some of them can actually be pretty entertaining, but some can just be really uninteresting, like some fat chick meeting Kim Kardashian. Season 2 of this show is actually a little bit more interesting than the first one because it's famous people telling their stories, but again, it's pretty hit or miss whether or not the stories themselves are actually pretty interesting. One of the main things I really don't like about this show is how it's presented. It just feels so fake to me. I really think the show would have benefited if the show was much more of an interview kind of show with animation over the top of it than the way they presented it here with people just standing in front of like an obvious fucking set. What I can't say is a positive is the actual animation of the show. I like that this show uses very different styles of animation for all the stories. It really looks like the animators of the show really got to have some fun. Greatest Party Story Ever? It's your call, dude. Personally, I think it's pretty alright. I do think some stories do get a little bit samey and not very varied, but I do think it's a pretty decent show. And that's it. Every single MTV animated show. I'm actually quite happy I did this, though I did have to watch a lot of shit. But a lot of it I actually did think was actually pretty good, and I'm glad that I took the time out to watch some of these shows. And you should too. I plan on doing more videos kinda in this style, looking at another network's entire animation library in the future, but don't expect that anytime soon, because this took a lot out of me, dude. I've been MarsReviews, and thank you for watching.